The Story of Two Cities, The Quest for Justice, June 12, 1994, Brentwood, Los Angeles City. In the silence of midnight, time seemed to stand still at 875 Bundy Drive. The white Rosa rugosa roses, which had bloomed so beautifully that morning when the gardener watered them, now shone with the same innocence in the moonlight. But this silence was deceptive. Nicole Brown Simpson's last breath had been taken among these roses. Right in front of her door, the cracks Los Angeles had two faces. One was the glittering lights of the Sunset Strip, the shop windows of Radoa Drive, and the golf games played on the manicured lawns of Beverly Hills. The other face was the burned-out buildings of South Central, the unhealed wounds of the 1992 riots, and the hearts that skipped a beat every time a police siren wailed. James Simpson was a man who bridged these two worlds. He was the Heisman Trophy winner, the legendary running back for the Buffalo Bills, and Hollywood's beloved face. The man smiling as he ran through an airport in a Hertz commercial. The humble superstar who could poke fun at himself in the naked gun movies. But bridges sometimes collapse, and when they do, they take everything beneath them with them. June 17, 1994. Santa Monica Freeway. Cowling's white Ford Bronco was like bloodless, blood flowing through the veins of Los Angeles. O.J., sitting in the back, had a gun in his hand pressed against his own head. The car was moving at 60 miles per hour, but it seemed to be standing still. "Hey, O.J., take it easy, buddy," said AC, gripping the steering wheel tightly. "The kids are watching you." The kids, Sydney and Justin, 8 and 5 years old, they were now motherless. On television screens, 95 million Americans were watching this slow chase. It would be the most watched live broadcast in history. Some thought they were watching the fall of a hero. Others, the last cry of an innocent man. The trial, 1995. Los Angeles Superior Court. The courtroom had turned into a battlefield. On the right side were Marsha Clark, Christopher Darden, and the prosecution team. They were trying to be the voice of justice. On the left side was the Dream Team: Johnny Cochran, Alan Dershowitz, F. Lee Bailey, and Robert Shapiro, America's best legal minds. And in the middle, O.J. Simpson in his dark blue suit. He wasn't running, smiling, or appearing in commercials anymore. He was just sitting there, watching his life unravel. "If the glove doesn't fit, you must let him go," said Johnny Cochran after the famous glove scene. The leather gloves that O.J. had worn over his latex gloves, which were now too tight, were one of the prosecution's strongest pieces of evidence. But now they were part of a theatrical performance. When Marsha Clark went home that night, she looked at herself in the mirror. Her hair was messy, and she had dark circles under her eyes. "This isn't just a case," she muttered. "This is a war. And in war, innocence dies." DNA laboratory, Cellmark Diagnostics. Robin Cotton looked at the drop of blood under the microscope. The numbers were clear. A 1 in 1 billion chance. It was O.J. Simpson's blood, without a doubt. But certainty took on a different meaning in the courtroom. When Johnny Cochran stood up, he scanned the jury. 12 people, 9 African American. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice theatrical, "I will show you how a racist police department can fabricate evidence." Mark Foreman's name had never carried such weight before. The former LAPD detective who found the blood-stained glove on Bundy Drive, but in Cochran's hands, that glove began to tell a different story. How did this glove get there? Who put it there? Why did Foreman find it? The questions hung in the air, sowing seeds of doubt in the jury's minds. Judgment, October 3, 1995. 10:07 Judge Lance Ito looked at the face of the jury foreman, reading the verdict. Armanda Cooley, an African-American woman, a postal worker, in her hand, a piece of paper that would change the fate of a nation. We, the jury, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty. The courtroom fell silent for a moment. Then it erupted. O.J.'s lawyers shouted in joy. Robert Kardashian looked at his client in disbelief. On television screens, America was divided. African-American communities celebrated in the streets, while most white Americans watched in shock. Fred Goldman, the father of Ron, turned to the journalists as he left the courtroom. His eyes were filled with tears, his voice trembling. Today, justice died. That night, Rockingham O.J. Simpson stood in his backyard, the same backyard that the police had searched every inch of. Now it was quiet and dark. He was free now, legally innocent. But what was freedom supposed to feel like? Why did it feel so heavy? His cell phone rang. He didn't recognize the number. A murderer, the voice said. Everyone knows it. The line went dead. O.J. put the phone back in his pocket and went inside. He knew he could never go back to his old life. Shadows, 2008. Las Vegas 13 years later, another courtroom. This time, the charge was armed robbery. O.J. Simpson was no longer the same man. His hair was gray, and his face showed the signs of age. 33 years in prison, said the judge. Perhaps justice had been delayed, but it had come. Or maybe this was another story. No one knew for sure anymore. Today the graves of Nicole Brown, Simpson and Ronald Goldman are still visited. Fresh flowers are left behind. Cards reading Justice for are placed there. Los Angeles is still two cities. Glitzy Hollywood and neighborhoods that want to be forgotten. Racial tensions still exist. Perhaps in different forms. It has been a quarter of a century since the O.J. Simpson trial ended, but it still shows America's wounds. What is justice? Who does it work for? Does the truth always come out? The house at 875 Bundy Drive has been demolished. Another house has been built in its place. But the shadows of that night still linger there, coursing through the veins of Los Angeles. And sometimes, in the silence of the night, when the wind rustles the Rosa rugosa roses, some say they still hear a whisper. What was the truth? End.